Pete and Robin, they would prefer Meghan to be there rather than Harry. Fair enough. We'll leave it there.
She could be the Tomahawks or the Hawks ambassador.
Yeah.
If they get there for the record shirt.
She could present me with a Graham shirt.
Yeah. Well, we'll
Get it present you with something else.
Get her invited.
She might be able to play on the heritage page.
Why do we always refer to the female spouse of royals by their maiden name still? It's still Kate Middleton. Why do we still call her Clinton, not Duchess of whatever? Speaking of women and powerful women.
What a segue.
Oh yeah, that's what I say. 2002, still doing it. Don't know how. There are not many things that we can rely on in the world. Taxes, politicians lying to you. When are we going to get Boris Johnson? When's he going to be invited to the cup final? We haven't had the Prime Minister there for a long time. That'd be good. And Leeds winning stuff. Well, the men are crap these days, as we know. But you can always rely on the Leeds Rhinos women. And what a story this was, because I was there earlier in the season. I think it was like the second or third game of the Women's Super League season at Liverpool, and they were pulled apart. 27-0. Rhiannon Marshall was the star on that occasion, and we turn up there on a Saturday in July in Bolton, and would you believe it? It's Leeds versus Cass in the final of the Women's Challenge Cup, and the Leeds Rhinos, 16 points given on the handicap by the bookmakers. What do they know? Nothing again. Because they've won it again. They've won it 2 times. The Leeds Rhinos, they've given them the freedom of the city and everything. Gushing round up in
There's a leader in the local
yeah.
newspaper telling everybody how valuable they are to the city.
But I think Scully would have liked it because it was an Australian halfback who scored
well,
winning try.
we'll come on to that in a moment, because we've got a question.
With an Australian coach.
She available for
well, that's what oh, no, we won't have to put...
Good vision, good awareness. Good hands.
Good support play, good speed.
Good kicking game. A Challenge Cup final, which was full of controversy in the build-up, apparently.
Can I ask a question? Did that girl who got suspended, was she played, she?
Yes,
scored the first try.
Yeah.
All right, so that was
belting
it,
try.
right, okay.
Rich's agenda against Castleford failed.
Yeah, got it.
That was a joke, in case anyone was wondering.
People might believe that.
Yeah,
But it only added to the folklore around the game.
That's what all big games have their own storylines, don't they?
So the great thing about it, Castleford can't complain because they don't have the best player. That's even better, isn't it?
Well, they're undefeated going this game, the first loss of the season, I mean, yeah.
I guess I think the players would like... They're being asked to be as professional as you can be when you're an amateur.
When you're not paid.
They're asked to be professional. I think they would like perhaps the transparency of the men's game in terms of suspensions and so on and so forth to be attached to the women's game, not just be a afterthought as it's treated as part of the community game at the moment. But I'm sure the game is growing, things will change. Leeds Rhinos, they win again. We mentioned Rhiannon Marshall trying the early stages, brushing past most of the Leeds. It was like watching Maradona against England in '86. But
Well, she did use her hands.
yeah, but the Leeds Rhinos, I don't know, Phil, they're your team. Defend. You talked about Widnes's defence earlier, and the Leeds Rhinos defended like their lives depended on it.
That's what won it for them. I mean, yes, a tremendous amount of skill to score the winning try, of which Courtney Hill quite rightly gave all the plaudits to
Your favourite player?
My favourite player, who plays so far above her weight for the position that she plays in, but you know, wears the number 10 but has the skills of a number 6. So made the bus through the Castleford defence off the back of a scrum, held the ball to just the perfect time to release Courtney Hill to get the glory. What I would say is we saw a very similar game last year. Incredible commitment from both teams, wonderful skill levels, some genuine personalities that you can build this sport around, who are everybody who was spoken to post-game on either side gave the most fantastic valedictory speeches about the women's. I thought Lindsay Anfield's speech afterwards was absolutely fantastic, because not only did she say the best team won and I have absolutely no complaints about how they won, but the one thing that she said was no matter who was playing and what shirts they wore, this was some occasion. And if we can elevate the profile of women's sport by games like this, we're happy to have been a part of it. I just think that the stage is there for this to be something really big for the sport. We mentioned it before, but Gary and I saw Women's Rugby League a long time ago. We went to a final at Castleford where you presented the medals to the winning team. The standard was great then. The women were, showed no self-preservation, and the skill level has always been there. But now we've called it Super League, and now we've got the clubs behind it, and now they've got access to the training facilities that the men have, and some of the conditioning and some of the nutrition. They're not professional in the sense that they don't get paid, but they are professional in the way they go about playing the sport. I think it's got a natural flow to it that we've lost a little bit in the men's game. The wrestle around the ruck isn't there. What we saw on Saturday with 4,000 people in the stadium when the game finished, all of them cheering, and it cast up a fantastic following with them. But all of the fans of Warrington and St Helens and Hull, were all getting there for the men's. They all bought into it, and they bought into it because it was first and foremost a great game. It's what we do with it now, and I think there are two things we need to do. One is, and I think it will happen, there needs to be commercial backing of it, and I think on the back of that commercial backing, because if you can't find sponsorship for women's sport at the moment, clearly. You're missing out on something.
It's a boom industry, isn't it? Yeah.
But that money that's invested has to make the players part-time. And the very least they deserve is to be, going right back to 1895, compensated. They're not going to go from being not paid at all to being full-time, but what they need is some element of recompense for entertainment and enjoyment that they're giving us, and the sacrifice that they're making. I think the other thing as well is we brought back the reserve grade, and we've made that mandatory. Every Super League team now has to have a reserve team. I think every Super League team has to have a women's team as well.
The only concern with that would be, is there the player pool to fill?
I think you've got to start. And there wasn't 2 years ago when the idea of a Super League was mooted, and we've seen that there is a disparity. There are 4 teams clearly that are better than the other 4 teams that are in Super League at the moment. But I think you've got to give people reasons to aspire, and there were 2 players, one on each side, who were 16 years old. One of whom scored a fantastic try, funnily enough outleaping the other 16-year-old. But if you were a young woman, young girl at the moment, maybe just starting out playing at school at the age of it, if you think, I can play in a grand final or a Challenge Cup final on a stage where thousands of people are watching me, I can get that innate feeling of joy that a winning team gets. I think we've got something.
You know, when she scored that try, and the commentator said, this 16 years of age, I thought, 16? Like, back in our day, you weren't allowed to sign fest till you were 17. I thought, is that right? Is she only 16? So the girls then could compete with the women, so-called.
At the age of 16.
They can start at 16, can they?
I think you can in Super League now.
So it's a great commitment, that, isn't it? Yeah. But and I just saw the highlights on television from there, and if I'm honest with you, if I'd got the invite from the RFL, I would have loved to have been there for the semi-final. Even part of the Football League's Hall of Fame and not invited. But anyway, I guess that's another story. But what I saw on television, I was, as I was when I first went to the Keeper final with you 20 odd years ago there at Keeper. The quality, the commitment, the purpose, and the skill levels. All right, when we talk about the 2 different games with men and women, forget about that. The men's section is there, the women is there, and as you say, and one thing I hope is that as a women game builds and it builds, I hope we don't get like the men by bringing in wrestling coaches and by bringing in this and by bringing that. Listen, just let them go out there, whoever's coaching them, just let the girls enjoy and express themselves, because at this moment in time, the product, what they are producing, is sensational. And when we talk about commercialism, and we look at all the other sports with the women, you look at the football, £10 million from Barclays or something. You look at the netball, which has been going now. You look at certainly the rugby union.
Cricket.
So the rugby union, they've all gone full time from there. And you look
kick at the backside in cricket, there's no rubbish.
And you look at the cricket, and then you look at, but also too from our point of view, when you look at the products and when you look at the entertainment value, you as a commercial person, why would you not want to be involved in rugby league from the women's point of view? It's sensational, but again. We asked the question at the time from the RFL. Who have you got there? Or is this Super League or the RFL who's
It's the RFL at the moment.
Right. you know, the guy who's promoting and marketing, I tell you what, you've not got a better time now to go out there and get a commercial partner.
I think the other great thing is I think they will capitalise on that, and one of the reasons they will is because there's a World Cup coming up in 2021, and that is going to be on equal footing. The Women's World Cup final is at Old Trafford before the Men's World Cup final. So I think, you know, if you buy in now in 2019, you've got a fantastic commercial opportunity to branding Old Trafford when the World Cup comes around.
But this is what we should be
doing,
doing, Phil.
Well, I think on the basis of Saturday, a lot of eyes were open. And it brings a different audience. You look round, I mean, we were sat together watching it. The fans that were there specifically to watch the women's game were a different audience to what we get to watch the men's.
Absolutely.
So if you're going to move the sport forward, you're going to break out of the bubble, whatever that means. You're going to do it through Women's Rugby League at the moment.
And we wouldn't be on this programme telling you if it was good, if it was rubbish, because we don't do that. And it is a good product, and that's why we've been backing it for the last couple of years and been telling you how great it is, because it is good. Of course, there are games which are rubbish. There are in any sport. You know, watch Wakefield lose 100-0. That's not great, is it? But that happens. There is something here, and we need to capitalise on it, because everyone else has got this pie. We've been through all these women's sports, they're getting all the interest and whatever. We would have not have had the coverage on the BBC in the build-up to the game, all the stories about Holly Dodd, you know, playing as a 16-year-old and this, that and the other, if it was just the two men's semi-finals, because I keep saying this all the time, those stories are played out. You know, we see the same people being dragged out every time to talk about Halifax or Sheffield or whatever, and no disrespect to them, but I've seen those stories and I've heard them. These are new stories we can sell to a new audience.
And I think the way that people like Georgia Roach, Courtney Hill, Danica Prim speak about the sport is refreshing in itself. They are fantastic ambassadors, not just for their teams, for the sport of rugby league.
Definitely.
And, you know, Danica's story, and you know, again, we got links to her because she's a columnist in the magazine. The 2 years that she sat on the sideline crying because of a broken knee, absolutely ruptured knee, to be playing in a final and to be tasting the victory, that's a very powerful story.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that I think is worthy of mention, and I know it won't suit everybody, and actually I don't really care, is that I thought the referee was superb. There were 3 penalties in the women's game, 2 of them went to Castleford. That meant that there was a natural flow to the game over 80 minutes. I'm not saying he didn't make a mistake. He clearly did. Every referee makes a mistake. Every player makes a mistake. The reason Castleford lost that game was because they didn't quite have enough to win that game. On 2 or 3 occasions they created an overlap, and for whatever reason, either the defence rushing up or a decision to turn back inside, they didn't create quite enough chances to win it. And if you don't believe me, listen to the words of the Castleford coach. But I thought the referee and the way he handled that game, he allowed it to breathe, made it a fantastic spectacle.
7th of August, I think it is, they meet again at Emerald Headingley Stadium looking to break the record of 1,400 and whatever it was.
In a standalone game.
Yes, so
I think it's a 1:30.
I think it is. She's perfect, 'cause I'm working in the evening so I can go and be neutral, because obviously I don't have a dog in the fight between Leeds and Castleford.
And we're getting genuine rivalries as well, which is the other thing. You know, Leeds and Castle always has been a rivalry, but to have it at women's level as well, to have Wigan and Saints, you know, that's why I think every Super League team needs a women's team, and perhaps as a curtain raiser to every Super League game, wherever. I know it's not easier necessarily on a Thursday night if the women are working and they're there in an amateur capacity, but wherever you can, have double headers.
Tell you what as well, when you saw Adam Cuperson, the Rhinos coach, after the game, he was absolutely funny. You can see the enjoyment he's got by coaching these ladies, can't you? You can see the enjoyment from there, and I think as well because the way Cupo plays, he likes to play with that freedom and how to express himself and play what he's seen in front here, and certainly he allows that in his team as well. For what I've seen, the way they've been playing. So,
but how great was it as well to have Darryl Powell and Michael Shenton wishing the Castleford?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course it is. Yeah, so it should.
Absolutely.
Of course it should.
But it's brilliant.
Absolutely.
We had loads of views of the stuff we did in the build-up. I think about 10,000 people watched me ask some really stupid questions of Danica after the game. But it's proof there is an audience there. And, you know, jump on the bandwagon now. get on it now because you don't want to miss out on it. Chris has mentioned that Scotia should refer the Leeds goes to his favourite tattooist because we're all getting tattoos done.
Willie Holbeck. Yeah, Willie Holbeck. Yeah.
I don't know what often. I don't think I want to know, to be honest. But they.
It's a tattooist in Holbeck.
No, I know, but no, what they're having tattooed.
Oh, sorry.
Don't want to go into that. But anyway,
I
Courtney
think
Hill,
the lady does protest too much.
Courtney Hill, England. That's what we're saying. Because we don't have any Australians these days.
Can't go
I'll tell you what. There's another great story with Courtney Hill. Was that clearly her previous history is playing as a fast bowler in the cricket, played for Brisbane Heat. So some of the post-match tweets have been from people like Test Match Special. 395,000 people follow that Twitter account.
No one's told Haggis his mate likes Rugby League. He won't be happy.
How long's she been over here?
It's 2 years. She's emigrated over here, so she's not been brought in as an overseas player, but she'd never played rugby league.
Does she live in Leeds, right? She live in Leeds?
Yeah.
Well, no, she played rugby league as a kid in country Queensland, but at 13 she had to give it up because there was no girls couldn't play with the boys.
After 13, yeah. So she
became a very good fast bowler.
Yeah.